Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I hope you're all well and will continue to be well. We should hear B'soros Tovos. It's been a very tough week so far. My dear friend, Rabbi Twersky, passed away. It should be a Meilitz Yosher for all of us. This week's Parsha, the Torah teaches us that after Matan Torah, the Jewish people came to Moshe every day from morning till night. And the question arises, what did they come for? So if you want to say they came for Dinei Torah, so it's amazing that there should be so many Dinei Torah regarding what? They don't own any land. They've just been released from slavery. They are eating mon. They're drinking miraculous water. So what do they do? What do they need Moshe for? So there are many Meforshim that say here a very esoteric idea. The Jewish people came to see Moshe, so to speak, regarding their own personal problems. Moshe, so to speak, in our time, we would say he's a Hasidic Rebbe. He's a psychologist called Maariv. They came to find God, meaning they came to find themselves. They came for spiritual and psychological help. And that's what Moshe would provide for them. And the Moshe, therefore, was busy from day until night. Because we all know that all human beings are afflicted with problems, with conflicts, with stress, no matter what the circumstances are. All of you have that feeling as well, sometimes a person goes on vacation, but it doesn't take him long to realize that he has brought all of his problems with him. And that they, so to speak, are not on vacation. They're all here too. Whatever worried us at home worries us where we go. So Yisro sees Moshe under this strain of the fact that he has this constant line of people waiting to talk to him. And one of the great attributes of a leader and of a counselor is the ability to treat everyone as though that one is the only one that he has to treat. We know that the stress that physicians are under when they have a whole waiting room of people. And yet the doctor has to treat every patient as though he or she is currently his only patient and is entitled to 100% of his time and efforts and talent and diagnosis. And that's what Moshe did. Well, if that's what Moshe did, so that's Miboker Vadorim, it says. from morning till night. There's a line outside of Moshe's office. Moshe has no day or night. Because he has to carry upon his shoulders the burdens of the entire people, everyone who wants to come to see him individually and to unburden themselves on Moshe. That's what Moshe will say later. Kasher Yisa Omenes Hayonek. A leader of the people, spiritual leader of the people, carries the people the way a nursing mother carries her suckling child. And so Yitro, who has experience in being a leader, after all, he's Kohen Midyan, as I discussed with you yesterday. So he takes the liberty of telling Moshe, Lo chein atov seh. It's not right what you're doing. You think that you're doing the people a favor. You think that you can handle it all. You think that this is the way to do it, so to speak, to micromanage everything, because you're responsible. It's kasher yiso omenes hayonek. No, Moshe, you're wrong. Novel tivo ato v'chol. You will be destroyed by it, and the people will be destroyed by it. It's humanly impossible for you to accomplish this. And not only that, you will train the people that the only one to turn to is Moshe. You'll make Moshe a god. Nobody else will be able to fill your role. The people will wither away. That's part of the problem that we all know. I mean, if you want to go see an expert in whatever field, law, accounting, taxes, health, medicine. So you want to see the boss. You want to see the one, the person that established the firm, that has the reputation. But that becomes an impossibility. So naturally, you have to be able to see people who are in his firm, who are able to cooperate with him, and who will consult with him. Anything that the associates, so to speak, cannot handle, that's beyond their ken of expertise and knowledge, so that'll be brought to me. They'll consult with me. But I can't hear every case. It's beyond human endurance to be able to hear every case. Not only because of time, but because of emotion as well. It's very hard to carry such a burden of everybody else's problems, everybody else's troubles. So therefore, Yisro creates here a civil service, a system of sorry meos, sorry alofim, sorry meos, sorry chamishim, sorry asoros. A hierarchy of who will hear the problems. And it's interesting to note that if you add it all up, so you got about 73,000 people involved to service 600,000 people, which is a very high percentage, 12%. But if we think of government today, there are many countries in the world where maybe a third of the workforce is working for government in one form or another. So Yisrael establishes a bureaucracy here. So I would understand as Sorei Alofim, that somebody's in charge of a department, he's in charge of 1,000 Jews. Yeah, okay. Even Sorei Mayos, 100. Sorei Chamishim already looks to be a little excessive. For every 50 Jews, you need a rabbi. But then the Torah makes it even more dramatic. Sorei Asoros, every 10 Jews have to have their own judge, they have to have their own sar, they have to have their own authority to deal with them. They have to have somebody that they can come to. So here we have a question that is very pertinent. I know, for instance, there are congregations in the United States, synagogues, that have a very large membership, 500 families, some even larger than that. How can anybody be the rabbi for 500 families? You can deliver a sermon for 500 families. You can write an article for 500 families. You can give a lecture for 500 families, but you cannot deal personally with 500 families. That becomes humanly impossible. And therefore, throughout Jewish history, we have had this question of how to nibble down, so to speak, the amount of people that one is, so to speak, responsible for. And that depends upon circumstances, personalities, all sorts of issues. There's no one size fits all. I have, in my rabbinic career, always felt that the congregation of 250 families was about the limit that I could handle. It's not because I want to be on the golf course. It's simply because there's a limit to how much personal stress that one can absorb. And there's also a limit to how much good advice one possesses. And Yitro points that out to Moshe. That's why he creates this enormous number of people, even to Sorei al Sorot, even to officers only in charge of 10. And to a certain extent, this resembles the breakdown of armies. There are generals in charge of the army, and then the army is made up of corps, and corps is made up of divisions, and divisions is made up of battalions, and battalions are made up of regiments, and then down to the sergeant that controls 10, 15 troops. But many times in battle, It's been proven over and over again. It's the sergeant that controls the 10, 15 troops that makes the difference more than the great general who is in charge of hundreds of thousands of troops. That's the lesson that Yisro teaches us. That's how you have to deal with people. We should try and make it as personal as possible. And the only way you can make it personal is to cut down the numbers so that you have time for each and every one. Now, again, in the wider world, you run into economic problems this way. You can't be a doctor with only 10 patients. You'll die of hunger. And you can't be a rabbi in a synagogue that has only 10 members because there's no organization. So then it becomes a question of balance, which everything is. How many? How much can you bear? Because I'll say that Moshe Rabbeinu had the ability that everyone that came before him felt that he was the only person in the world that Moshe was dealing with. So Moshe felt badly that Yisro took that away from him, that he had to establish this civil service system. So the Lord, so to speak, intervened, and he made Moshe's face shine, so that Moshe had to wear a mask, that Moshe had to be outside the camp. So that of necessity made the Jewish people have to deal with the Sorei Alofis and Sorei Meos, Sorei Asoros, because Moshe then was not within reach. So these are important lessons that exist within our time as well. And everyone has to find their way, and every group has to find their way to be able to deal this way. And therefore, that's why the Torah gives us such detail about the advice that Yitro gave in order to preserve Moshe and to preserve the Jewish people as well. So I want you all to have a good afternoon, and thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow, God willing. And please stay well. Kol Tuv Selam.